Welcome back to our continuing coverage of the impeachment trial of Donald Trump. I'm Andrew Whitman. I'm going to be taking over and taking you through the end of our coverage, which right now is scheduled to run until 9 o'clock as we keep an eye on the activities in the U.S. Senate. It's a question and answer day for the 100 senators who are questioning both the House managers who are prosecuting Donald Trump as well as the defense team that is defending Donald Trump. We are on a dinner recess right now from the actual Senate trial. We expect the trial to resume around 7:15 or a little bit later. And as we've been saying, we'll have some highlights for you from throughout the day, as well as some other material and other news that's coming through. But we've been taking phone calls, and we want to go back to the phone calls, and we'll put the number back up on the screen again. We want to get your sense as to whether the Senate can continue with this and reach a verdict that is just and honorable if they don't hear from witnesses first. Let's go to the phones. Michael is calling from Queens, New York. Michael, what say you? Do we need witnesses for this trial?
Of course we do, Andrew. I mean, if you get called for jury duty, you are in a trial or whatever, and you're going to hear both sides. This is common sense. It's like looking up at the sky, and if it's blue, it's a blue sky. There's nothing to think about. What we're being told and what's being said is that we're basically, if we ignore this, we're in the beginning of the steps to become a dictatorship and not a democracy. So there's nothing, with the fake news and this and that. It's just to cloud our vision so that we don't see what's really in front of us. Thank goodness there are people like Adam Schiff who can point it out so eloquently that this is basically our last stand as a union. And if you don't think it is, let's talk about it 5 years from now and see where we are if we don't do the right thing.
I'm curious, one of the arguments that we hear from Republicans, because you mentioned the work that Adam Schiff has been doing, and I've been praising him as well, but you can make the argument that Adam Schiff dropped the ball a little bit here because of the Democrats not pursuing witnesses and not having the complete story as it went to the Senate. Do you think that we lost him, but that's certainly one of the arguments that we've heard from Republicans through this process. I want to bring in my guest, who's going to be working side saddle with me throughout the remainder of the evening, former U.S. Attorney Stanley Twardy. Welcome back to the program. First of all, how would you respond to my question that Republicans have been pointing to Schiff and Pelosi and Democrats and saying, hey, this is on you for not following the procedure?
There is some logic to that argument, that the Democrats in the House did not try to get Bolton there. They did not go to the process of going to the courts to try to enforce the subpoenas that they had issued. And now, of course, you've had the Bolton news that's come out, the Parnas has come out since that. But the Democrats felt comfortable presenting the articles of impeachment to the Senate, and it's now like, oh, there's more here. Why didn't you get it to start off with?
I want to ask you before we go back to the phones. You're in court a lot. You know the way these things work. The questions that we're hearing from the senators today, how do they compare to the questions you would hear in court? And most people immediately think of the attorneys who ask the questions in the courtroom, but in a jury trial, jurors can ask questions also for clarification on the evidence. And since these senators are jurors, is it comparable to what the questions juries might ask, or is it a completely different animal?
Well, it's a little bit different animal. I don't think it's completely. And again, the impeachment is not like a trial.
Right.
You don't have the federal rules of evidence and things like that come into play. It's more political, and it was meant to be a little bit more political than the jury trials. But it is similar in a way as to what jurors would ask, okay, or even judges. I mean, I've been in many trials where the judge says, well, wait a second, Mr. Twardy, you didn't ask this question. I'd like to ask this question of the witness. So that the triers of fact always have questions about things which are a little bit unclear.
Of course, the biggest difference is that jury questions come at the end of an entire trial process. All the witnesses, all the evidence, all of that. As you're judging a verdict, this is sort of in the middle of things here where the senators are trying to figure out whether to end the trial or keep it going.
So yes and no, okay, because as I mentioned, the judges sometimes will ask questions when the witness is on the stand. And now more and more, at least in the federal courts, judges are allowing jurors to ask questions of witnesses before they leave the stand. Then there also, obviously, what happens, and I think most people think about, is when a jury's out deliberating, they'll send in questions saying, Judge, can you explain this again, or can you read this back to me? But during the course of trials in federal court, at least, there are questions asked by the judge and by jurors.
We think that the Senate is going to resume in about 20 minutes or so, and now that I have my attorney with me, I feel like it's safe for us to go back to the phones and get through as many calls as we can. Let's go to Darren, who is calling from Elizabeth, New Jersey. Darren, what do you think? What are your thoughts on what you're seeing so far, and do you need to hear witnesses?
Oh, we definitely need to hear witnesses. I mean, Trump has blocked everyone who's tried to get up there, who's been subpoenaed. And I would like to see Trump get up there and testify. Trump, Pompeo, and Mulvaney, all of them are first. People keep saying no first-hand witnesses, hearsay. Well, the individuals who have the information are not being allowed to testify.
That's a great point. Darren, thank you for the call. Really appreciate it. Stanley, there was an argument that I heard at one point during the day that said you could just turn around and talk to John Roberts right there and get his opinion as to whether a privilege claim would hold, whether the president could continue to try to block witnesses like this. The president's defenders came up and said, no, you really want to take it to a court, not ask Justice Roberts. Does he not have that ability?
He does not have that ability. This is a special constitutional role he has to sit as the judge of the impeachment. It does not supersede the normal rules of court, which require somebody to go to the district court, the Court of Appeals, then the Supreme Court. And even an opinion he might render would be at best advisory, and he's only one of 9 Supreme Court justices, so it's not so sure that the other 8 would follow him.
Let's go back to the phones. The number's on your screen. Let's go to Jay in Frederick, Maryland, who lives a little bit up I-270 from where I used to live. Jay, what are your thoughts, and do you need to hear witnesses?
Absolutely. If you and I or any other person goes to court, regardless of what evidence they've already had, there's always a superseding indictment if it's necessary, and further documents obtained just to prove the case. I mean, what are they afraid of? That they don't want any evidence to be revealed, whether he's going to be found guilty and removed, or whether he's going to be acquitted or not. A fair trial for the sake of the Constitution and for the sake of the American people and for the sake of our democracy is necessary. We have to have faith in our own judiciary system. Right now, the sentiment is down in the toilet that we do not trust our justice system. We call it the Department of Injustice. So this is another opportunity for Americans to hear and to know that we have people that are elected that we can trust, that will do everything regardless of their position, to make sure the truth is known, the facts are found, and the adjudication is fair. This is an opportunity for America to redeem itself. It's not just about impeachment. This is a test of our democracy, of our system, and the whole world is looking. They think this is a charade. They say, what's going on with these people? It's so apparent that the way things are. But why don't you want to release and reveal all the evidence, people to testify?
Jay, thank you very much. Give my regards to the Old Line State. We are going to take a break here on our coverage on RFL if we wait for the Senate to resume and get back into session. More coverage of the impeachment trial of Donald Trump comes right after this. Stay with us.